Biodiversity. Biodiversity, quick revision. Heterogeneity. Immense biodiversities of universe is called heterogeneity. Macromolecules within cells to biome. Immense diversity exists in macromolecule within cells to biome. Biodiversity term popularized by Edward Wilson. Biodiversity term popularized by Edward Wilson. Combined diversity at all the levels of biological organization. Explained by Edward Wilson. Combined diversity at all the levels of biological organization. Explained by Edward Wilson. Single species, high diversity, genetic level, genetic diversity. Single species, high diversity, genetic level, genetic diversity. Medicinal plant of Himalayas, Rauwolfia vomitoria. Medicinal plant of Himalayas, Rauwolfia vomitoria. Greater amphibian species 8, Western Ghats. Greater amphibian species 8, Western Ghats. Lesser amphibian species at Eastern Ghats. Reserpine produced by Rauwolfia vomitoria. Reserpine, the chemical produced by Rauwolfia vomitoria. Scandinavian country, Norway. India versus Norway. India has greater diversity compared with Norway. IUCN, International Union of Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. IUCN, International Union of Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. Species inventories are more complete in temperate countries. Species inventories are more complete in temperate countries. Large proportion of species waiting to be in the tropics. Invention of large proportion of species waiting to be in the tropics. The conservate and scientifically sound estimate made by Robert May. Conservate and scientifically sound estimate made by Robert May. Global species diversity at about 7 million species according to Robert May. More than 70% of all the species recorded are animals. Most species rich taxonomic group in animals. Most species rich taxonomic group in animals are insects. 10:7. 7 out of 7 are insects out of 10. Major taxa in invertebrates, insects. Major taxa in vertebrates, fishes. Major taxa in invertebrates, insects. Major taxa in vertebrates, fishes. Major taxa in plants, fungi and angiosperms. Major taxa in plants, fungi and angiosperms. Fishes, amphibians, reptiles, mammals are equal to the number of fungi species in the world. Fishes, amphibian, reptile, mammals are totally equal to the number of fungi species in the world. Biodiversity estimates do not give any figure for prokaryotes. Biodiversity estimate of Robert May do not give any figure for prokaryotes. Conventional taxonomic methods not suitable for identifying microbial species. Conventional taxonomic method not suitable for identifying microbial species. Many species not cultivable under laboratory conditions. Prokaryotes. Many species not cultivable under laboratory condition. We have example prokaryote. If we accept biochemical or molecular criteria for this delineating species, the prokaryotes even considered as a global estimate. What happened to the nature's biological library? Burning even before we catalog the titles of all the books. Diversity equator to pole decreases. Tropics, temperate, pole, diversity decreases from tropics to poles. Ecuador versus Midwest USA. Ecuador has up to 10 times as many species of vascular plants as a forest of equal area in temperate region like the Midwest of the USA. Ecuador has up to 10 times as many species of vascular plants as a forest of equal area in temperate region like the Midwest of USA. Vascular plants in Ecuador versus Midwest USA. In Ecuador, 10 times more than Midwest USA, even though the place is same. Frequent glaciations in the past in temperate region. Relatively undisturbed for millions of years, tropical region. More seasonal areas, temperate region. Less seasonal areas, tropical region. Long evolutionary time for diversification, tropical region, more seasonal areas, temperate region, less seasonal areas, tropical region. Long evolutionary time for diversification, tropical region. Niche specialization leads to speciation, formation of new species. Niche specialization, where more possibility in the tropical region, leads to the speciation, new formation of new species. South American jungles pioneering and extensive explorations done by Alexander von Humboldt. In South American jungles, pioneering and extensive explorations done by Alexander von Humboldt. Relatively less constant and unpredictable region, temperate region. Relatively more constant and predictable region. Relatively more constant and predictable region are said to be tropical regions. Relatively less constant and unpredictable region, temperate regions. Relatively more constant and predictable regions, tropical region. Species richness is increased with increased explored area up to a certain limit. Species richness is increased with increased explored area up to a certain limit. More solar energy available at tropical region. More solar energy available at tropical region. Less solar energy available at temperate region. Higher productivity region, tropical region. Lower productivity region, temperate region. More time available for niche specialization, tropical region. South American jungles, relation with species, explained by Alexander von Humboldt, species area relationship. Rectangular hyperbola, according to Alexander von Humboldt, the relation between species richness and area for a wide variety of taxa like angiosperm, plants, birds, bats, and freshwater fishes turned out to be a rectangular hyperbola. The relation between species richness and area for a wide variety of taxa like angiosperm plant, birds, bats, freshwater fishes turns out to be a rectangular hyperbola according to Alexander von Humboldt. Species area relationship in logarithmic scale, straight line. Species area relationship in logarithmic scale, straight line. Equation for rectangular hyperbola, S equal to CAZ. Equation for straight line, log S equal to log C plus Z log A. Equation for rectangular hyperbola, S equal to CAZ. Equation for straight line, log S equal to log C plus Z log A. Then S and A. S equal to species richness, A means area. S, species richness, A, area. Z and C. Z is the slope of the line. C equal to y-intercept. C, y-intercept, Z, slope of the line. Regression coefficient, Z, slope of the line, is called regression coefficient. Slopes of the regression line similar. Ecologists have discovered that the value of Z lies in the range of 0.1 to 0.2, regardless of the taxonomic group or the region, whether it is the plants in Britain, birds in California, or mollusks in New York State. Slope of the regression line are amazingly similar. According to ecologists, Z lies in the range of 0.1 to 0.2, regardless of the taxonomic group. The regression coefficient, regression line are amazingly similar. Slope of the line is much steeper. In species area relationship, among very large areas like the entire continents, you will find that the slope of the line to be much steeper. Z values range 0.6 to 1.2. Slope of the line is much steeper. The species area relationships among very large areas like entire continent, you will find that slope of the line to be much steeper, where Z values in the range of 0.6 to 1.2. Example of slope of the line is much steeper. For frugivorous fruit-eating birds and mammals in the tropical forests of different continents, the slope is found to be 1.15. Slope of the line is much steeper. Example, for frugivorous birds and mammals in the tropical forest of different continents, the slope is found to be 1.15. Z equal to 0.1 to 0.2. regardless of the taxonomic group or the region, whether it is the plants in Britain or birds in California or mollusks in New York State, the slope of the regression line are amazingly similar. Z equal to 0.1 to 0.2, regardless of the taxonomic group or the region, whether it is the plants in Britain or birds in California or mollusks in New York State, the slope of the regression line are amazingly similar. Z equal to 0.6 to 1.2, species area relationship among very large areas like entire continent, you will find that the slope of the line is to be much steeper. If we take entire continent, slope of the line is to be much steeper. Z equal to 1.15 for frugivorous birds, mammals in the tropical forest of different continents, the slope is found to be 1.15. Outdoor plant experiment done by David Tillman. Outdoor plant experiment done by David Tillman. Less year-to-year variations in biomass. Plots with more species having less year-to-year variations in biomass. Increased diversity in plants contributes higher productivity. Increased diversity in plants contributes higher productivity. Do not show too much variation in productivity. Property of stable community. Do not show too much variation in productivity is the property of stable community. Must be resistant or resilient to occasional disturbances. Property of stable community. Must be resistant or resilient to occasional disturbances is the property of stable community. Must be resistant to invasion of alien species. Property of stable community. Do not show too much variation in productivity. Must be resistant or resilient to occasional disturbances. Must be resistant to the invasion of alien species are the properties of stable community. Rivet-Popper hypothesis, Paul Ehrlich. Rivet-Popper hypothesis, Paul Ehrlich. Plot with more species, stable community. According to Paul Ehrlich, aeroplane is compared with ecosystem. Rivets are compared with species. Airplane compared with ecosystem. Rivets compared with the species. Rivets on wings is compared with key species that drive major ecosystems further. Rivets on wings, key species that drive major ecosystem further. Speciation, formation of new species. Speciation, formation of new species. Colonization of tropical Pacific islands leads to extinction of 2000 native birds. Colonization of tropical Pacific island leads to extinction of 2000 native birds. IUCN 2004 Red List documents. IUCN 2004 Red List document. Dodo, extincted bird in Mauritius. Dodo, extincted bird in Mauritius. Red List documents contain the list of extincted animals. Stellar sea cow, extinct mammal, Russia. Stellar sea cow, extinct mammal, Russia. Passenger pigeon, extinct pigeon, endemic to North America. It's an extincted bird, endemic to North America. Passenger pigeon, extinct pigeon, endemic to North America. Bali, Java, and Caspian. Bali, Java, and Caspian. The extincted tigers, they are in India. Bali, Java, Caspian. Extinct tiger, India. Quagga, extinct zebra, belongs to Africa. Quagga belongs to the Africa. It's a zebra. Thylacine, thylacine, extinct carnivorous marsupial, Australia, from Australia. Thylacine, extinct carnivorous marsupial, Australia. Sixth extinction, estimated to be 100 to 1000 times faster than in the pre-human times, and our activities are responsible for the faster rates. Sixth extinction, estimated to be 100 to 1000 times faster than in the pre-human time, and our activities are responsible for the faster rates. 5 episodes of mass extinction. 5 episodes of mass extinction during the long period, 3 billion years more than, since the origin and diversification of the life on Earth, there were 5 episodes of mass extinction have happened. Then sixth extinction differ from last 5 episodes. Sixth extinction is man-made, and last 5 episodes are naturally happened, and man-made sixth extinction is rate of extinction is much faster than compared with the last 5 episodes of extinction. Last 20 years have witnessed the disappearance of 27 species. Last 20 years, we have witnessed the disappearance of 27 species. Next 100 years, nearly half of all the species on Earth might be wiped out. Next 100 years, nearly half of all the species on Earth might be wiped out. Extinctions across taxa are not random. Some groups like appear to be more vulnerable to extinction. Some groups like amphibians appear to be more vulnerable to extinction. Extinction across taxa are not random. Some groups like amphibians appear to be more vulnerable to random extinction. Presently, the percent of all bird species, 12% of bird species, 23% of mammal species, and 32% of amphibian species, 31% of all gymnosperm species in the world face the threat of extinction. Presently, the 12% of all bird species, presently 12% of all bird species and 23% of all mammal species, 32% of all amphibian species, 31% of all gymnosperm species in the world face the threat of extinction. Approximate number of species facing the threat of extinction worldwide, 15,500. Approximate number of species facing the threat of extinction worldwide, 15,500. Accelerated rates of species extinction that the world is facing now are largely due to human activities. Decline in plant production, loss of biodiversity in a region may lead to decline in plant production. Evil quartet. 4 major causes of extinction are called evil quartet. 14% to 6%. Tropical rainforest covering area reduced to 14% to 6%. Lowered resistance to environmental perturbations like drought. Loss of biodiversity in a region may lead to the lowered resistance to the environmental perturbations like drought. Lungs of planet. Amazon rainforest is considered as lungs of planet. Cultivation of soya beans. Amazon rainforest, probably millions of species is being cut and cleared for cultivating soya beans for raising beef cattle. Effect on plant and productivity, water use, pest and disease cycle. Loss of biodiversity in a region may lead to effect on plant productivity, water use, pest and disease cycles. Conversion of the grasslands for beef cattle. Amazon rainforest, probably millions of species being cut and cleared for conversion to grasslands for raising beef cattle. Large territories required for birds and mammals. Mammals, birds, animals with migratory habits are affected by fragmentation. The large territories required for birds and mammals, they require large territories, but they are affected by fragmentation. Stellar sea cow, passenger pigeon, extincted due to overexploitation. Stellar sea cow, passenger pigeon, extincted due to overexploitation. Marine fish overharvesting. Overexploitation leads to the extinction. Marine fish overharvesting leads to the overexploitation of marine fish leads to the extinction of that marine fishes. Nile perch, introduced into the Lake Victoria in East Africa, led eventually to the extinction of an ecologically unique assemblage of more than 200 species of cichlid fish in the lake. Nile perch responsible for 200 species of cichlid fish in the lake in Lake Victoria of East Africa. Carrot grass, Parthenium, environmental damage caused and threat posed to our native species. Parthenium plant, carrot grass. African catfish, Clarius garipinus is the African catfish, posing a threat to the indigenous catfishes in our rivers. Then Lake Victoria, East Africa, Lake Victoria, East Africa. Exotic Nile perch ruled to extinct 200 local cichlid fishes. Lake Victoria, East Africa, what happened there? Exotic Nile perch came, ruled to extinct 200 local cichlid fishes, co-extinct. Plant pollinator mutualism, co-extinction, extinction of one invariably leads to the extinction of other, called co-extinction. Example, plant pollinator mutualism. Lantana, environmental damage caused and threat posed to our native species. Host fish and its parasites. If host fish extinct, its unique assemblage of parasite also meets the same fate. 200 cichlid fish species extincted due to Nile perch in Victoria Lake. Cereals, pulses, fruits. Humans derive countless direct economic benefits, narrowly utilitarian argument for conserving biodiversity. Water hyacinth, Eichhornia crassipes, environmental damage caused and threat posed to our native species because of water hyacinth. Tannins, lubricants, resins, dyes, perfumes. Humans derive countless direct economic benefits like tannin, lubricant, resins, dyes, perfumes. Narrowly utilitarian argument for conserving biodiversity. African catfish, indigenous catfish. Invasion of alien species. African catfish is an alien species that made extinction of indigenous catfish. Bioprospecting, exploring molecular, genetic and species level diversity for products of economic importance. Bioprospecting, exploring molecular, genetic and species level diversity for products of economic importance. 20% of total oxygen on Earth's surface, Amazon forest, is estimated to produce through photosynthesis. Save entire forest to save tiger. When we conserve and protect the whole ecosystem, its biodiversity at all levels is protected. In situ conservation we call. Save entire forest to save tiger. In situ conservation. When there are situations where an animal or plant endangered or threatened and needs urgent measure to save it from extinction, ex situ conservation is a desirable approach for this. When there are a situation where an animal or plant is endangered or threatened and needs urgent measures to save it from extinction, ex situ conservation is a desirable approach. Very high level species richness. You'll find in biodiversity hotspot identified for maximum protection. Biodiversity hotspot will have high level species richness. Species endemism, that which means confined to that region, species confined to that region and not found anywhere else, identified for maximum protection, biodiversity hotspot. There are also regions of accelerated habitat loss. Biodiversity hotspots are also the regions of accelerated habitat loss, contain species endemism, very high level species richness. Western Ghats and Sri Lanka cover our country's exceptionally high biodiversity region. Western Ghats and Sri Lanka is a biodiversity hotspot which cover our country's exceptionally high biodiversity region. Species endemism and species richness. Biodiversity hotspots. Indo-Burma and Himalaya cover our country's exceptionally high biodiversity region. Indo-Burma and Himalaya is a biodiversity hotspot. Species limited to a particular area, endemic species. Extremely high and strict protection of these hotspots could reduce the ongoing mass extinctions by almost 30%. Extremely high and strict protection of these biodiversity hotspots could reduce the ongoing mass extinction by almost 30%. 2% and 30%. Percent of 34 biodiversity hotspots, percent of reduction of ongoing mass extinction. Biodiversity hotspot may occupy only 2%, but they protect 30% of, they prevent 30% of reduction of ongoing mass extinction. The 34 biodiversity hotspot will occupy only 2%, but the reduction of ongoing mass extinction by 30%. Ecologically unique and biodiversity rich region, legally protected as biosphere reserves and national parks and sanctuaries. 1490-448 biosphere region, national parks 14, Biosphere Reserve 14, National Parks 90, 448 Wildlife Sanctuary. 448 wildlife sanctuaries, 90 national park, 14 biosphere reserve. Zoological parks, botanical gardens, wildlife safari parks. Examples of ex situ conservation. Zoological park, botanical garden, wildlife safari parks are examples for ex situ conservation. Protection, religious, cultural, sacred groves, in situ conservation. Protection, religious, cultural, sacred groves, we can say, in situ conservation. Seed bank, ex situ conservation. Seed banks are example for ex situ conservation. Khasi and Jaintia Hills, Meghalaya, sacred groves, in situ conservation. Khasi and Jaintia Hills, Meghalaya, sacred groves, in situ conservation. Ravali Hills, Rajasthan, sacred grove, in situ conservation. Ravali Hills, Rajasthan, sacred grove, in situ conservation. Western Ghat regions, Karnataka and Maharashtra, Western Ghat regions are located, that sacred grove and in situ conservation. Sarguja, Chenda and Bastar, Madhya Pradesh, sacred grove, in situ conservation. Lost refuges of our threatened plants, sacred groves of Meghalaya are said to be the lost refuges of the threatened plants. Khasi and Jaintia Hills, Meghalaya, Ravali Hills, Rajasthan, Western Ghat regions, Karnataka and Maharashtra, Sarguja and Chenda, Bastar, Madhya Pradesh, and the last refuge group, sacred groves of Meghalaya. Threatened species placed in a special setup, ex situ conservation. Threatened species placed in a special setup, ex situ conservation. Cryopreservation. Gametes or threatened species can be preserved in viable and fertile condition for long periods. Cryopreservation. The gametes of threatened species can be preserved in viable and fertile condition for a long period, ex situ conservation. In vitro fertilization, ex situ conservation. Tissue culture, ex situ conservation. In vitro fertilization and a tissue culture for the growth of plant, ex situ conservation. Extinct in the wild, grown at zoological park, wildlife safaris, botanical garden, ex situ conservation. Extinct in the wild, grown at zoological park, wildlife safaris, botanical garden, ex situ. Earth Summit, year 1992, World Summit 2002. Earth Summit 1992, World Summit 2002. Rio de Janeiro is a meeting at Earth Summit. Rio de Janeiro, Earth Summit. Johannesburg, World Summit. Johannesburg, World Summit. Rio de Janeiro, Earth Summit. Pledged their commitment to achieve by 2010 a significant reduction in the current rate of biodiversity loss at global, regional, and local levels. World Summit. In World Summit, they pledged their commitment to achieve by 2010 a significant reduction in the current rate of biodiversity loss at global, regional, and local levels. Historic Convention of Biodiversity, Earth Summit 1992. Historic Convention of Biodiversity, Earth Summit 1992. Follow-up, Sustainable Development, World Summit 2002. Follow-up, the Sustainable Development, World Summit 2002. India's land area in the world, 2.4%. India's land area in the world, 2.4%. India's land area in the world, 2.4%. Percent of species diversity in India, 8.1%. India's place as mega diversity country, one of the 12 mega diversity countries of the world. Plants in India, 45,000 species of plants. Animals in India, 90,000 species of animals. Percentage of recorded species from the total, 22%. Plant species yet to be discovered, more than 1 lakh species. Animal species yet to be discovered, more than 3 lakh species. Global estimates of plant and animal species given by Robert May. Colombia near equator has nearly 1,400 species. New York at 41N, birds are only 105 species. Greenland at 71N, birds 56. In Colombia, the birds 1,400, that which is near the equator. New York 41N birds, 105. Greenland 71N, only 56 species. International Union of Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, IUCN, 12% present, 12% of all bird species, 23% of all mammal species, 32% of all amphibian species, 31% of all gymnosperm species in the world face the threat of extinction. Thank you.